Welcome to the Crush Cravings with Confidence podcast. I'm Coach Lisa Callahan, a recovered emotional eater. I ended decades of self-inflicted struggles with food through taking a journey of self-discovery, which revealed the secrets of what was going on underneath the food. Throughout this podcast, we'll explore topics that are rarely talked about, like low self-esteem, lack of confidence, people-pleasing, and decades of self-sabotaging behaviors. Rather than just focusing on the food, we'll dive deeper into aspects of who you are as a person and how you ended up relying on food for comfort to begin with. My mission is simple: to empower women to regain their confidence and prioritize self-love, regardless of the number on the scale. Discover what you've really been craving, and trust me, it's not about the food. This podcast is based on insights shared from the Women's Emotional Eating Community Support Group on Facebook, so be sure to check out the show notes for the link to the group and a complimentary gift just for you. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Hey, welcome to another fun and insightful episode of the Crush Cravings with Confidence podcast. The topic today is a pretty important one. It's called 3 Steps to Identify Body Dysmorphia and Gain Back Your Self-Worth. This is a really serious topic and one that I have personal experience with. So I want to start this episode with sharing some of my own personal experiences with body dysmorphia, because although I spent decades of my life looking in the mirror, hating myself, and feeling like I had to live on a diet forever, I didn't recognize that all of that was tied into body dysmorphia. I literally had no idea that I had this symptom that was producing itself as something that was actually fixable. I just thought that I was supposed to hate my body forever. Kind of thought that that was something normal. I mean, I started to learn that as a teenager, a 7th grader. Oh, my thighs are fat. Oh, I hate my hair. I just sort of thought that it was supposed to be. You weren't really supposed to like yourself. Like, that wasn't a thing that I ever considered. And so I really didn't recognize how much that had evolved into a habit. And I didn't recognize at all with awareness that that habit was actually fixable. So I recognized that there was a part of me that really wanted to take good care of myself. I wanted to work out and eat right and be the best version of myself, but I didn't even know what that meant yet. I just thought that was all about the number on the scale, the size of my clothes, how I compared myself to others. And I didn't really recognize that that was a lot of judgment, a lot of harsh thinking about myself, and that even though I did diet for majority of my life, I never felt confident in the way that I looked, and especially the way that I felt from the inside of myself. Like, it literally didn't matter what the number on the scale said. If I lost 5 pounds, if I lost 10 pounds, if I gained 3 pounds, the feeling of self-hatred was always there. And that's parts of body dysmorphia. So I want to remind you in this episode that I'm a motivational mindset coach. I'm also a recovered emotional eater. And so I know the ins and outs of this because I've lived it. I've experienced it myself. But I do want to also remind you that I'm not a physician, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a psychologist, and I'm not an emotional eating specialist for that matter. Because the roots of how I crushed my food thing, how I fixed emotional eating, how I changed my image of myself, really had nothing to do with what most of the experts talk about, which is about food. When I work with my students, I don't talk about food at all. The funny thing is that while I spent decades of my life micro dissecting what I was eating and the amount of calories and how much I was burning and all of that busy work, now I just do what comes naturally to me, period. Like, I just know myself from the inside out. I like myself and I support my best interest. And that really means that if I want to have a cookie, if I want to have a cake, if I want to have an ice cream, whatever, I'll make a decision based on that moment and not on like what I feel about myself from the past or what maybe I did the day before. Like, I just live really mindfully in the moment, but it's not even mindful eating. It's just knowing me as a person. And then everything comes along with that just happens naturally. And so I don't have all that busy work that I used to have. I don't have that body dysmorphia that I used to have. I don't have that self-image. I don't feel like I'm always waiting to be happy when. That's really made a lot of changes in my life. And that's what I teach my students how to do in my personal growth and development membership. I like to teach women how to love themselves from the inside out first. I had a gal the other day that was talking to me about wanting to make better choices for herself in the eating department. So that way she could lose weight. And that way, when she lost weight, she would finally be able to learn how to love herself. And I was like, you got that backwards. She's like, what do you mean? And I said, well, I want you to decide that you want to love yourself first. And then because you love yourself, you'll be able to make decisions for yourself that will always support your best interest. And then because you're making decisions for yourself that always support your best interest, then you're going to lose weight naturally. She was like, oh, wow. I never looked at it that way. And so I want to share with you, if you're struggling right now, I understand that. And there actually is a solution for this. But most of the time when people say that they're struggling with body dysmorphia or body image issues or self-esteem issues or self-worth issues or all that stuff, they're really heavily focused on the problem. And so I would like to invite you to think about the solution first. And then if you have the solution first, you'll know exactly what to do. Interestingly enough, I never thought that the solution would be that I could actually trust myself around food, or that I would ever be able to look in the mirror and just be like, oh, cool, that's me. That I didn't think that there was a version of me that didn't have to judge or didn't have to measure myself against, I don't know, another person or even a past version of myself. I could literally take a picture, look at it at that moment and be like, oh, God, look how awful I look. I could look in the mirror at any day, any moment of the day, and instantaneously have a negative thought about myself. Now, this was a subconscious habit. I literally didn't even know I was doing it. I thought I was a pretty positive person. I thought I liked myself well enough. And yet, the way that I was measuring my worth was based off of me being a good person helping others. So you could always count on me to help you out with something, with a crisis, with a problem, with whatever. But then I never really stopped to even investigate what I was thinking about myself. And that's where the struggle was really sitting. And I didn't know that. So if you don't know that, sit yourself down, grab a cup of tea, and listen. See if you can really hear what I'm saying and see if you can identify yourself in parts of my story. So when I was struggling with this, I didn't really know that the struggle had a name. I never really heard about binge eating disorder. I never heard about body dysmorphia. I had something also called exercise bulimia, and I also had something called orthorexia. Never heard of those things before in my life. But when I started to learn more about them, I was like, oh, I could feel my cheeks getting hot. I kind of was like, oh, wow, I think that I actually resemble that. And because I was in an open mindset at the time, I was welcoming in new information. Then I was interested and I was like, wait a minute, wow, like, let me look at this. Like, this is actually something that I can probably fix, because to me, every problem is solvable. Now, this is not something that I knew. It's something that I learned, and it's something that I learned through personal growth and development work. And so if every problem is solvable, and I had a problem with body dysmorphia and emotional eating and binge eating, then wouldn't that mean that it was fixable? If it was an actual problem anyways. And so as I started to work through this problem, I started to understand things from a wider lens. You can write this down. A closed mind cannot accept any new ideas. And if you're closed-minded, meaning that you're just like, this is how it is, this is how I've always been, this is what my problem is, I know my problem, or I know myself so well, and you're not willing to open your mind to the next level of awareness, to actually like open your mind to say, hang on a minute, what am I missing? Then you won't be able to accept any new ideas. But stick around, keep listening, because you never know. There might be a little invitation for a new idea to come flowing into your head. But typically the way that it works with your mind is that if you have too many old thoughts in your head, you won't be able to invite a new thought in, because there's no room. So it's kind of like if you had a bunch of boxes sitting there with like old information, but you wanted to like put something new in there, what would you have to do? You'd actually have to take out one of the old boxes. And that's kind of how self-discovery works. And that's how personal growth and development works. You have to take something out to make room for something new. So we can talk about that on another time. But for right now, this episode, we're going to be talking about body dysmorphia and what that looks like. So going back to some of the examples, I didn't know that what I was struggling with had a name. And I actually, like I said before, thought it was just normal to hate your body. I thought that it was normal to be critical of your physique. I mean, I felt like everybody did that, right? And so I almost felt like it would be unrealistic for me to be like, yes, I love my thighs. But the funny thing is that it's not that all or nothing, because I don't walk around now like looking at myself being like, I love myself. That's silly. It just doesn't even make sense. It's like not something that you would do on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis. But it's a feeling and it's inside and you know it. And it comes out in ways because even now when somebody gives me a compliment and somebody's like, wow, Lisa, like that's a nice shirt. Now I'm not just sitting there going, ugh, this old thing. Or if somebody's like, you're so pretty, and they really mean it. Like they want to give me a compliment. I'm like, ooh, pretty. What are you, pretty ugly? Like I don't do that sarcastic stuff anymore. I just say thank you. And it feels good. It really does. So at the time that I was struggling with this, though, I was pretty certain that I was just going to hate myself forever. And I didn't even recognize that that's what I was doing. It did take a lot of self-awareness and curiosity and kindness and compassion and a whole lot of forgiveness, because I had to pull myself out of this exhausting loop of I'll be happy when, which is really at the root of the problem. And that's how body dysmorphia kind of starts to begin with. It's like you don't know it. Like when you're a baby, you're not sitting there being like, I hate myself. Like you don't do that. More than anything, when you're a little baby, you end up sucking on your toes and you're like, oh, I mean, you're not thinking about anything. You're just like, that's a body part. Or you got your hand in your belly button, or your hair's, fingers curling your hair, you're sucking your thumb. Like you're not judging yourself, not thinking about anything. You're just, I don't know. It's just, this is me. This is my body. And you're touching your body and, this is just you. Same thing with when you're like a 2-year-old, you could put on a yellow hat, purple pants, and orange shoes, whatever, it doesn't matter. And you could be like, look at me. And somebody might be like, well, that doesn't match. And you're like, I don't care because I'm 2, right? But then somewhere along the line, you get sort of put into a position where suddenly like your emotions start to come, and then you might be embarrassed about something. And you're like, wait, oh, that doesn't match. Or, wow, I have curly hair. How come everybody else has straight hair? How come this girl has braids and I can't braid my hair? My hair's short. Like when I was a kid, I had short curly hair. I envied the little girls with the bows and all the fancy things and the barrettes, but I couldn't have that because I had this. And it's interesting because you don't recognize with awareness yet how you do start to compare yourself to others. And that shame, that guilt, that feeling, that disappointment, that, oh, wow, I didn't know, that new learning, it has to come with some sense of awareness. But when you're little, you just can't have it. And so then by the time you're a teenager, if you get caught in this loop like I did, it can really start turning into something quite negative. And again, you might not even know it. Comparison is the thief of happiness. And so if it allows you, if you're comparing and you don't realize it, like I did, it allows you to just stay in this I'll be happy when loop. And that can really bring you into a fear-based mindset. And then once you're caught in a fear-based mindset, fear just like is such a thing. It's almost like weeds growing. Doesn't take a lot to grow a weed, but once you have one, you can have another and another and another, and it just keeps going. So for me, that critical age really began probably around 13, 14 years old, and it just formed into a habit. I was super hard on myself, super critical. I compared myself to others. I had my expectations set way too high. Now with social media, like it's even harder, I would think. I was in the day of the teen magazine. I was a teenager in the 80s. So we didn't have the social media. We didn't have the filters or all the stuff that you can have now. So I can only imagine that it's just getting more and more difficult for your authentic self to shine through because of that comparison. You're looking at something that's unrealistic. I used to scour the teen magazines and look at the girls with the lip gloss and things and be like, wow, why can't I look like them? Well, guess what? Because I didn't have a modeling photo shoot. I wasn't like under makeup or lights before I took a picture, right? And yet at the time, like it just made me feel like I was fundamentally flawed and that those people had something that I was never going to have. But my expectations of myself were actually unrealistic and it wasn't really fair at the time. And like I said, I can imagine even if you're a grown adult woman, 50, 60, 70 years old, it doesn't matter. If you're looking at social media and you're looking at these perfect pictures and people's perfect families, and it's just harder and harder to be able to accept yourself and to be able to love yourself right where you're at. And so there might be a dysmorphic image of what it is to be a human. And if that's happening, then that's going to be a difficult thing to break through unless you become aware of what's happening. So again, to be honest, I was really preoccupied with all of my flaws and I was hypercritical of my appearance. And that's really how the body dysmorphia started. I always thought that I was like sensitive to my own image, but I never put two and two together that I could actually fix this. I just didn't know. So let me just pause for a minute and just explain what like the definition of body dysmorphia is and really how it can damage your self-worth. Once again, just to be super clear, I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist or anything like that. So some of this information I've just gathered through definitions that have come through the internet. And yet at the same time, I've made certain that the definitions that I'm giving you are something that really aligns with what I'm teaching. So that way it's a really good fit. And I want to make sure that we are all sort of looking at this through an open lens. So when I discovered that body dysmorphia was something that I had, I was actually a certified health coach and I was in school it's called the Institute of Integrated Nutrition. So I was learning a lot of things and I was already a nutrition counselor and I was already a personal fitness trainer. And I taught people about things that I was lacking. And that really started a betrayal of my own integrity. It really took me out of a place where I could, with authority, tell somebody what they should think. Oh, don't be so hard on yourself. Are you kidding? You look great. But then like I wasn't doing the same thing for myself. So that's a mismatch. And that really makes you feel like you're fundamentally flawed because you're saying one thing, you believe so wholeheartedly that that person, your friend, your relative, your sister, your whoever, they should feel good about themselves. But then you're talking negatively about yourself and you don't even know it. So as I'm helping people and doing, the right thing and things that I actually believe in, I'm also single-handedly like sabotaging every idea that I'm giving out on myself. So my self-worth became like lower and lower and lower. And you might be struggling with this too, even if you're not a health coach, even if you're not a, professional in that space, but maybe you're a nurse, maybe you're a teacher, maybe you're somebody that, helps other people. Maybe you're in a caregiving profession. And so you might have all the advice in the world. Maybe you're a counselor of some kind, and you might be giving all of that wonderfulness that you already know out there, then literally leaving like nothing for yourself, like scraps for yourself. And that can really destroy your inner feelings about yourself. So when I first learned this, I was like, oh my goodness, what is going on here? Like, do I have body dysmorphia? This is actually insane to me. Like, I just didn't realize it. And so I want you to remember that one of the most amazing lessons that I've ever been taught myself and that I teach now is, once again, every problem is solvable. So if you think you have a problem with body dysmorphia, it is solvable. And I want to assure you of that. And it's solvable for everybody. Nothing is easy for the unwilling. So as long as you are willing to learn new things about yourself and you're willing to step into that with openness, a closed mind cannot accept any new ideas. Remember that. So if you're willing to step into this with openness and you're willing to say, hey, actually, wait, that resembles me and I want to learn more, then we will have a really good place to start to take a journey inward. And that way your external looks or what you think about yourself will start to shift and change, and it'll open up in a new way. I'm always fascinated with that. Like, I can look in the mirror and I don't think anything. I don't think I'm pretty, I'm not pretty, I'm this, I'm that. I don't know. I just don't think about anything. It's just like, oh, that's me. There I am. And that's something that's really comforting, because I spent majority of my life really not being able to do that at all. And so if you look in the mirror and you criticize your own body, you're never comfortable in your own skin, you point out every flaw, and you use cutting words to put yourself down, you might be struggling with body dysmorphia as well. And you might want to start to investigate your own journey to see where you may be the one thing that's standing in your own way of your own happiness, keeping yourself from enjoying yourself as a whole human being. Not where you're like, oh, well, on this day I look good, or if I have lipstick on, I look better, or, all of the little things that we can do to convince ourselves that, like, I'll be happy when, or I have to do this thing perfectly, or else then it's terrible. And so that's like the all or nothing mindset. And these are all symptoms that are wrapped up in most people who are struggling with body dysmorphia. So if you ever feel like you're not good enough, or you'll never be good enough, and that is like gnawing at the back of your head, you might be struggling with body dysmorphia. So in this episode, again, we're going to be learning how to take that struggle and turn it into your strength, so that you can make certain that you are guiding yourself to show yourself what to do next, because struggling with this forever, that is hard. And fixing it is actually pretty simple and easy. But yet at the same time, it's also hard, because you have to change. You have to open your mind. You have to change original thoughts that have been habits over decades of time that are meant to keep you stuck. And so the thing is that staying stuck is hard. Change is hard. So all you have to do is choose your heart, and then find something that starts to seep in, that is starting to lead you towards your highest self, the one that actually can look in the mirror and feel good, as opposed to your lowest self or your weakest self, the one who looks in the mirror and criticizes every single thing. All right, so what I want to start to do is step into a conversation that is empowering you to stop reacting negatively to yourself, so that you can start recovering and embracing the idea that you deserve to love yourself from the inside out right now, this very second, so that you can start to meet yourself here today, where you're at, and start to guide yourself towards your future self. That's where your freedom lives. Right now, you're not free. You have to look in the mirror and criticize. You have to look in the mirror and think, ugh. You have to tell yourself, I'll be happy when. So you're not free. You're not free to choose your thoughts. You are staying stuck in old thoughts. And so here's some steps that we can start to take that will help those obstacles start to become stepping stones. So step one is awareness, period. Now, you may have heard me talking about awareness in different episodes. Episode 18 shares some different awareness levels for what type of emotional eater you are. And it'll help you to identify whether or not you're in desire aware, compare aware, conflict aware, curiosity aware, or self-aware. So as you're starting to step into this thought of fixing your image, body dysmorphia, what I want you to think about is being in curiosity aware and then self-aware, because that's going to really be helpful. So awareness is a doorway. As long as you're willing to open it and step through, you're going to start to feel better, because you're going to start to feel safer with trusting yourself and not allowing those old thoughts to just instantaneously react to the mirror, where it's like, well, I hate myself. No, that's not nice. And you're a really nice person. So calling yourself names, telling yourself you're stupid, fat, ugly, an ogre, or whatever, like I did, that will change who you are as a human being. It'll give you a lot of things to think about, but a lot of those things aren't really purposeful, and they're always going to lead you towards feeling like a failure, which isn't true. You're not a failure. You've done many amazing things in your life, and you know that. So the discomfort of body dysmorphia can signal where you might need healing. And without awareness, you have a cycle that keeps you running silently, or that keeps running silently in the background, steering your choices away from your highest self without you ever recognizing it. You're just literally on autopilot. And awareness is the doorway, because you cannot change what you do not see. And so for many women with body dysmorphia, there's a quiet little constant humming in the background that's like a little companion that you're so used to, but it's super annoying and you can't get rid of it because you're so used to it. So it's almost like you just like crave the annoying little chatter, but at the same time, it's the very same thing you hate. And so like the craving for hating that chatter becomes kind of a constant. That little noise can almost be addicting. And so it whispers these criticisms in the mirror, nudges you to pull at your clothes and be discomfortable or be uncomfortable, like, maybe even wearing things that are too tight, like purposefully, but subconsciously, just making you feel like, oh, I feel so heavy. I feel so fat. I feel so overweight. I feel so, and yet you're sitting there in clothes that might be too small on you right now because you might want to continue to feel that discomfort, even though we know that that's not really a helpful thing, right? Because it makes you feel weighed down. It makes you feel heavy. It makes you feel like awkward. It just doesn't, it doesn't feel good. And so when you're in that space, you might be like prompted to notice all of those flaws and you can't help noticing them. And the longer that voice is left unchecked, the longer you stay unaware that that is actually parts of body dysmorphia. It's just a story that you keep repeating over and over again. And you've got this story memorized. What I'd like to invite you to do is to start memorizing a future version of yourself, one that no longer is struggling with this problem that is very fixable. So awareness means that you're going to start to catch yourself in the moments, catch yourself in the act. It's not about shaming yourself or having those thoughts be something that you're like, oh, what's wrong with me? No, it's not about saying, oh, I did it again. It's about saying, oh, there's that thought again. Wait, where did that come from? Why am I doing that? And this step is really powerful because it creates a space between you and the discomfort. So there's something that we call protection. Protection is like those instantaneous reactions, just those things where you're like I used to do this when I stepped out of the shower. Every single time, it didn't matter if I had gained weight, lost weight, it didn't matter what part of my day I was at, it didn't matter. Instant reaction to my stomach. I was just like instantly like, whoop, beeline it, step out of the shower, whoosh, look in the mirror and be like, yuck, disgusting, ugly, horrible. Like no matter what, if I had lost weight, I would still look at my stomach with disdain and I'd still say, how could that possibly be? How could I have lost 3 or 5 pounds or whatever and still look like this? And it was really uncomfortable. And so this step of awareness, because what I decided to do, because this is where I was aware, I was like, you know what? If I cannot look at my body, I can't look at my stomach without saying something nasty, then guess what? For right now, until I can trust myself, I'm not going to look at all. I'm just like not going to look. I am going to get out of the shower and I am going to force myself to not look at my stomach, because guess what? Then I won't have an opportunity to instantaneously look and go like, bleh. So I just started to practice that. And every day I just got into the habit of not looking. And when I didn't look, then I didn't have that pile added on of the yuck and the disgust. So that pile in my brain got smaller, and the sense of calmness and awareness, and also being able to remind myself that I'm free to do what I want. I don't have to look in the mirror and say disgusting. I don't have to. So one day I challenged myself. I was like, all right, well, if I can get out of the shower and trust myself not to look in the mirror and look at my stomach with disgust, then maybe today I can trust myself to look in the mirror and actually look at my stomach and, I don't know, just either be like, oh, cool, there's my stomach. Or maybe be like, I don't know, like I don't have to judge anything. I don't have to look at it and be like, oh, you look great. I don't have to do anything. I could just look and be like, oh, there's me, cool, Like it doesn't have to be like one way or the other. I think the idea really of this solving body dysmorphia is just to accept you, period. Like, oh, there's my stomach, there's my belly button, there's my ribs, there's my whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, there's no judgment. This is me, period. I can't change, the fact that I have like an innie belly button. Like, I can't be like, oh, wish I had an Audi. Like that. That's not purposeful, right? It's just like, just to be like, oh, that's my body. Cool. Right. And so that's where you can start to make some changes in awareness to know that you are free. You don't have to believe every thought you have. You don't have to look in the mirror and attack yourself. You don't have to. That's a choice. And so between that protection of the reaction and what you can learn about yourself and your worth is that there's a space. This is from Viktor Frankl. It's a book called The Man's Search for Meaning. And I don't have the exact quote in my head right now. It's just that he says that between protection and learning, there is a space. And it's in that space that you have opportunities to learn new things about yourself. And so this step is really powerful because it starts to create a space between you and the distortion. And it is a distortion, right? Because even if you're sitting there judging your body and being hypercritical and you're comparing it to something that you saw somewhere else, you're like, well, I know what my sister's stomach looks like, and that's not what mine looks like, and whatever. Like, you're comparing yourself to someone else, or you're comparing yourself to something you saw on a Facebook post, or you're comparing yourself to your friend who you saw in a bikini last week. Like, that's not nice, because then you're actually using someone else and you're judging them, and then using it to judge yourself. They didn't give you permission to judge them, so that's not nice. And so that's why you have to start to investigate you being who you are, who you want to be, which is a nice human being. So you don't want all that judgment and shame and blame and distraction. Like, it doesn't add value to your life. It doesn't add value to your life. And I would think that as a mature human being, that you want to do things that add value to your life, right? Right? Write that down. Do I want to do things that add value to my life? Or do I want to stay stuck in things that are taking away value? What do I want? What do you want? You have the choice. It's a freedom. Everybody has it. Now you just have to take ownership of it because you're aware of that freedom. So as you begin to recognize that the critical inner voice isn't the truth, it's just a reflection of the old wounds and perhaps those hurtful comments, maybe from childhood. And so maybe a moment of rejection came into your younger years, and maybe those years conditioned you to take that and just make it so. Just like I did I'm telling you, this happened in like 7th grade. Everybody hated themselves in 7th grade. And I just got used to it. It just literally became a habit. And when you start to notice this trigger moment, right? And a trigger is an unhealed part of yourself. So for me, when I was in that younger years and I hated myself, and I mean, that's the ages that maybe I lied a little bit. Maybe I don't know, like maybe I didn't feel like I was good enough for being invited to a party. Maybe and I maybe just got some ideas about myself that just aren't true, but that I was still storing. That's a trigger. So a trigger is just an unhealed part of yourself. And so when you notice these trigger moments, like maybe when you're getting dressed or getting out of the shower like I had, or passing by a mirror, or even scrolling on social media where you're like, wow, I'll never look like that, using those things as an opportunity to shame yourself, to blame yourself, to make yourself feel distressed. What you're going to want to do is open a new door for yourself, to give yourself a chance to pause. Because you can effectively make a trigger in the other way. Like, it doesn't have to be a trigger to a reaction. It can actually be a trigger to a response. So that's when I decided and I learned that when I looked in the mirror, that was one of the triggers that set me into a space where then I could make myself feel ugly. And so I changed that, and I used that shower as a time to be like, okay, I'm going to trigger something else. I'm going to use the shower to trigger myself to not look in the mirror. And then once I felt stronger in that, then I used the shower time to trigger myself to be able to look in the mirror and to look at myself with kindness and compassion. That became a trigger, but the trigger was me. I was in charge of it. It wasn't just the reaction. I learned how to respond. And there's a difference. So you can start to investigate this. You can start to ask yourself, like, who taught me to think this way about my body? Like, where did I learn that? You can ask yourself, is this really mine? Or is this something that I absorbed from another time in my life? You can also ask yourself, what would I see if I looked in the mirror, or if I looked into my eyes with like a neutral, right? Like not a judgment, not a yes or no, not a good or bad, just neutral. Like what would that be like? Can you even invite yourself to think in those terms? So awareness doesn't fix everything overnight, but it does shift your power. The thought is no longer on automatic and it becomes just an observing thing. And once you can see it, then you can start to choose to think differently, right? Remember, you don't have to believe everything you think because some of your thoughts are meant to keep you stuck. Yet if you choose thoughts that are meant to help you grow and serve your purpose and serve your better interest, then you'll be able to choose that, right? And then you can believe those thoughts because you're choosing them. They're not just flying into your head and then you're like, oh, okay, well, guess I better believe that. Why? Why do you want to believe thoughts that are meant to keep you stuck? Does that serve your highest self? So in my coaching community, one of the best stories that we share is one called the Sidewalk whole story. And that's where awareness really steps into this, because if you continue to let yourself fall into a place of unawareness and not recognize that you have a choice and that it is your fault that you're thinking this way, because you're not stepping in front of those thoughts first, you'll keep falling into the same repeat pattern over and over and over again. And if you don't wake up to this, nothing changes. So I want to share with you this chapter story, and it may not make sense to you because you're not working with me yet, and maybe you don't know the whole theme of what I teach, but I'm going to give you a little glimpse. So this chapter story goes like this. Chapter 1. I walk down the street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I'm lost. I'm helpless. But it isn't my fault, and it takes me forever to find my way out. Chapter 2. I walk down that same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. Can't believe I'm in the same place. But it isn't my fault, and it still takes me a long time to get out. Chapter 3. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it there. I still fall in. It's a habit. But my eyes are wide open. I do know where I am now. It is my fault, actually, and I get out immediately. Chapter 4, I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Chapter 5, I walk down a new street. And so if you can think about this chapter story and the examples that I gave you of the shower, right, that chapter 1 and 2, where I was just automatically darting into the mirror, pretending like not to see it, but I knew that that was always a time that I would just like, bleh. And then that chapter 3, where I started to produce an idea and be like, wait, what if I don't have to think this? What if I can, change this thought? And then eventually being able to challenge myself to be able to look in the mirror and not think that negative thought. And that's when you're walking down another street. That's when you're like, okay, wait, I'm actually healed. And now I have room in my brain for new thoughts, because you can't have too many, thoughts in your head. You have to take one out to put a new one in. And that's how the journey works. And so moving towards healing from this body dysmorphia, to deliberately stopping the cheap punches that I was taking on myself, I had to sit there and think about this. And this routine had to become more of an automatic. And that's where you're walking down another street, because you don't want to keep using your thoughts and using your poor body as like a punching bag. And so those were the times for me that, I had these thoughts. Some of them happened instantaneously. The minute I woke up, like that was a trigger time. I would wake up and I would think, oh, what did I eat the day before? And I would shame and blame and guilt myself. And maybe I would even wake up thinking, oh my gosh, I packed my schedule too big today and I don't have time to do things, and I'm going to fail. I'll be late. And like, I woke up with like my nervous system on fire. And then the shower, I've already explained that. And then right after, I ate something that was off my diet, but I also made my diet unrealistic and unsustainable. Like seriously, seriously, to the point where like there were some times that I couldn't eat anything because I had been on so many diets, and one diet tells you not to eat potatoes, and another diet tells you not to eat this, and another diet tells you to eat one thing that the other diet tells you not to eat. I was so flipping confused that at some points I was like, what can I eat? Like cardboard? Like I couldn't eat anything. It was insane. And plus my digestive system, my poor stomach, because I hated it so much, it just went haywire. And I was eating so many like non-nutritious things, like, I don't know, like bars, shakes, bars. Like my stomach was just not connected because I had disconnected it. And I didn't realize that all I had to do was like stop hating it so much, start loving myself from the inside out, make really good choices for myself just because I like myself. And then my body was, it started to do the right thing. Even though I had been diagnosed with diverticulitis, I had been diagnosed with IBS, I had been diagnosed with, what's it called? Like a nervous stomach. I had been like all the anxiety stuff, like it just ruined my GI tract. But in addition, I ruined my GI tract because I was trying to live on all the diet foods and stuff, and I just didn't give my body half the chance. Your body given half the chance will heal itself. Your body is actually a perfect machine. It knows what to do. I didn't realize how much that body dysmorphia and my choices and what I was eating had taken away my actual birthright, my health. My birthright is my health. But I had taken a lot of that away based on a lot of the choices that I made. And some of those choices were, stuck in that body dysmorphia zone. And what I had to do was reverse engineer. I had to go to the solution first and then figure out what I wanted to do from there. So as soon as I became aware of this mental bashing and I decided to challenge myself to deliberately change, to steer myself towards more of a neutral way of thinking, I routinely wrote myself a goodnight note. And I also looked at that note first thing that I saw in the morning, because part of that trigger for me was like those morning thoughts. And so my note just looked like this. I would write it every night. Dear Lisa, good morning. I love you. Hope you have a nice day. That's it. Pretty sweet and simple, and very effective, actually, because instead of being met with the negative voice in my head, I just like instantaneously like looked at something that made me feel good, that made me feel valued and loved. And it reminded me that I'm a human being with feelings, and that it's not fair to start off my day with this, you're gross, and what did you do, and you don't deserve to feel good, and you're going to fail today, and like, what did you eat yesterday, and what's wrong with you? And like that used to be my autopilot. So you can deliberately change that. And that's something that you can do. It's a choice. So to deliberately counter my disgust with my naked mirror image of stepping out of the shower, like I said before, I just chose not to look in the mirror for a little while until I could trust myself. And then just like you were told as a little kid, like if you don't have something nice to say, just don't say it at all. And it really does help, because again, you have all these thoughts in your head and there's so many that it's like weeds. They just come up and up and up. And if you just like stop like nurturing the weeds or growing the weeds, then they'll start to diminish, and then you can start to effectively pull them out. And then once you effectively pull them out, you'll have a free space to be able to plant a new seed, and then you can start nurturing that. And little by little, it will start to dissipate. That disgusting feeling about yourself will start to change. You don't want to continue to take cheap shots at yourself, because I want you to trust yourself that you can stop your thoughts. It is really simple. You just say no. Just literally tell yourself no. Say, that's not nice. Stop. And then even if you have to have something to tell yourself to stop, and you want to put this in your head just to give yourself something else to think about, you can think like, is that thought nice? And if the answer is no, and you want to stop it, but you feel like you can't, just literally envision a stop sign and count the 8 sides of a stop sign. And that'll give you enough time to like de-escalate the drama, because there's a version of you that wants you to look at yourself and hate yourself. We don't want to talk to her right now. We want to give yourself a little time and a little space to be able to, with an awareness level, to be able to step into your own power. And so making certain that you have these like deliberate triggers, these deliberate times where you make certain that you make room for support and awareness. I want you to also tell yourself to give yourself permission to start to unlearn some of the diet rules. Because like I said, for me, that's what kept me really stuck, because I got so scared. I was like, well, I can't eat anything. And I was listening to all these experts outside of myself. But the truth is, you are a bio individual, which means that one person's perfect food is another person's poison. So, how can you listen to an expert out there telling you what to eat? I can't tell you what to eat. I can't. I can tell you what I eat. But the thing is what I eat might be different than what you eat. I had almonds today. Maybe some of you are allergic to almonds. So that would be not a good thing for you, right? Like walnuts upset my stomach, but hang on, they're brain food, right? I'm supposed to eat those, but they don't feel good to my body. So one person's perfect food is another person's poison. Now, interestingly enough, things also change, and you have to be able to be malleable, because I don't know, like I used to eat hot sauce all the time. I liked it. Now suddenly my tongue's burning from it. I don't know why. It doesn't matter. My body's a perfect machine. My body's telling me what to do. And so if you're listening to all the information out there, then you're probably not able to hear your own inner voice. And if you can't hear your own inner voice, because that other voice, the one that's screaming in the background, humming all the negative thoughts, is speaking too loudly, then you have to learn how to get into the driver's seat of your own life so that you can turn down the volume on that screaming voice and learn how to take agency and ownership of yourself. Once you do that, you'll be able to go to step 2, which is to learn to have compassion for yourself over criticism. Every critical thought can be a moment to practice a new thought that comes from your inner voice. Compassion is the antidote to harsh and unrelenting inner critic words that come along with body dysmorphia. That's what body dysmorphia feeds off of. Because without compassion, you have no safe space inside of yourself to grow, to heal, or to change. And when you lack compassion for yourself, your mind becomes a strict judge, a jury, an executor, all at once. And every perceived flaw, every slip, every failure just gets tried in an internal court. And you're the judge deciding, that you must be perfect or else you lack worthiness. You're the jury, always finding yourself guilty no matter what the circumstances. And you're the executioner, punishing yourself through dietary restrictions, over-exercising, or an endless self-criticism. And the problem in this system is that you never win. There's no appeal, there's no mercy, there's no opportunity for understanding, only relentless condemnation. Body dysmorphia feeds off of this internal personal justice system, making every mirror reflection, every meal, every glance in public as a trial that you are doomed to fail. Compassion interrupts this automatic system. It allows you to step out of the courtroom of your self-condemnation and into a space where you can observe, understand, and respond differently to yourself than you might think that you deserve. So instead of punishing yourself and automatically starting to deliberately criticize yourself, I want you to do the opposite. I want you to purposefully and deliberately pause and ask yourself, is what I'm thinking right now serving me or is it trapping me? And if I had a friend in this exact same situation, would I advise her to feel this way? And this can shake your inner thoughts away from criticism and into a present solution of the situation, where you can pause and reflect on, why am I so hard on myself? This isn't the way to grow. And then when compassion becomes the law of the land inside of you, the harsh trial ends and the judge and the jury softens and the executioner releases their grip. You're free to act from care and curiosity and self-interest instead of fear or automatic life sentencing responses. Because if you're struggling with body dysmorphia, your inner voice can be relentless. You look terrible. You'll never get this right. And everyone's noticing your flaws. People are looking at you. And these thoughts are automatic and they can feel like a fact, but they're not. They're not. They're just your mind's way of keeping you hyper alert to your imagined flaws, often shaped by past traumas, bullying, or societal pressures. So criticism simply becomes the default. It just reinforces shame and it keeps the cycle going. And Brene Brown says that shame is a feeling of fundamental flaw. Guilt, on the other hand, is a feeling of like, I've done something wrong, whereas shame is like, I am wrong. And that's a problem because you are not wrong. Compassion doesn't ignore reality. It ignores your feelings without, or it acknowledges rather your feelings without judgment, and it treats you just as you would a friend. And so when you respond to yourself with kindness instead of punishment, when you start retraining your mind to see yourself as worthy of your own appearance, you can really see yourself as a friend. And once you do that, it's going to create more compassionate rituals, morning affirmations, like I said, saying good morning to yourself. I deserve kindness today. Smile in the mirror. Make that an exercise. Just literally look in the mirror and challenge yourself to smile for 30 seconds. We can do it together. I will do it for 10. Ready, set, smile. Seven, 8, 9, 10. Take a nice deep breath in. And you can do it again and again and again. I mean, literally just smiling. That's the gentle, compassionate side of yourself that says, yeah, I deserve to feel good. I deserve to feel like I'm enough. So compassion's not a one-time fix. It's a muscle that you strengthen over time. Every time you choose kindness over criticism, you're going to weaken the critic and reclaim a little bit more of your self-worth. And this step doesn't help you just with body dysmorphia. It helps you with your relationship with yourself on a spiritual level. And it's also going to help your relationship with food because, like, if you're liking yourself more, if you're loving yourself more, if you're reminding yourself to be more compassionate, like there's zero compassion about like sitting and eating 2 Whoppers in the car and chopping it off with a shake and then feeling awful. That's not compassion at all. And then making yourself feel disgusting or making yourself feel sick to your stomach. I mean, there's nothing compassionate about eating 27 cookies at one time. It just makes you feel gross. So that's not compassion. So one more step, step 3, is rebuilding your relationship with yourself from the inside out. Like I shared with you at the beginning, that gal that I was talking to who said, like, I want to eat better so that then I can lose weight, so then I can love myself. And I was like, oop, got that backwards. We want to build the relationship with yourself now because you're worthy of love and belonging, no matter what the weight, the number on the scale says, period. The pain shows you where your self-worth has been outsourced, maybe to appearance, maybe to the number on the scale, maybe to the size of your clothes, maybe to what your friend looks like. Maybe you've labeled yourself as being a perfectionist. And please, if you have done that, that is not a good thing. Trust me. And I did it for years. So just take that word of advice. If you're labeling yourself as a perfectionist, it's literally like, I think Elizabeth Gilbert says it in her book, maybe Eat, Pray, Love. Something along the lines of like perfectionism is just like fear all dressed up in like a fancy mink coat and high heels. It like seems like it's really good. It's like, I'm a perfectionist. It's not good. It's all fear. So if you're showing these things to yourself, it means that you've like outsourced your goodness, your self-worth. And I invite you to reclaim it. Many people feel like they have to lose weight to feel happy with themselves. And the truth is again, you've got that backwards. You have to be happy with yourself first so that then you will naturally and lovingly want to care for yourself in ways that you might not think are possible right now. So if you try to do this the opposite way, you're going to use your I'll be happy when thoughts as a weapon to sabotage your best interest every chance you get. And if you're stuck in that I'll be happy when, I would like to invite you to be happy now. And you might say, no, Lisa, I can't. Okay, great. Is that thought meant to help you grow, or is that thought meant to keep you stuck? Challenge yourself. I can, I can, I can. If you start to relate to what you can do instead of what you can't do, well, then you're going to change everything. Can you just smile in the mirror for 10 seconds? Yeah, you can. Nothing's holding you back. You can do that, period, end of story. And so as we close off this episode, I want to always just remind you that you are your best friend, period, end of story. You were born with a purpose. You were not born with a label on your baby crib that said, this one will be a perfectionist. This one will live in fear. This one's not worthy. Like, that didn't happen, period. And I know that some of us here in, our beautiful community here have suffered trauma and stress and were born into chaos, literally born into chaos, or were told that they weren't supposed to be born, whatever. It doesn't actually matter now. What matters is what's going on inside of your head between you and you. So as you might all know, I have a lot of different things that can help you to be able to invite yourself towards thinking about change. Change doesn't happen overnight, but at the same time, staying stuck might feel like it's forever. And if you keep doing the same things over and over again, well, you'll keep staying stuck forever and ever. So why not just take one first right next step towards a direction of change? What have you got to lose? You have a lot to gain actually in making new thoughts in your head and getting rid of some of the old ones. So I also have a new website called www.coachlisacallahan.com. That'll show you all the upcoming events. That'll be in the show notes as well. In addition, we always have the Women's Emotional Eating Community Support Group, which is on Facebook. So find the link for that and get signed up. And if you're looking for an actual challenge to take with me, we always have the Mindset Makeover, which is 21 days to learn how to stop eating your emotions. We're actually doing that as a live challenge now. So it's a 3-week opportunity. If you're listening to this episode, at the time that it's produced here, the challenge will be coming up really soon. You can just check the show notes for the date. But at the same time, if you're listening to this even years later, we're going to continue to run the challenge. So just make sure that you click on that link so that you can see the next date that it is going to be available for you. All right. Thank you so much. It's so nice to have everybody here, and I will see you next time. Remember, anyone can sell you a diet plan. I'd like to be the one who helps you not need one anymore. All right. I'll talk to you ladies soon. Bye for now. All right, my beautiful friend. That brings us to the end of another episode from the Crush Cravings with Confidence podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening today and took something from our conversation that you are going to put into immediate action. I love spending time with you and would be so grateful if you would share this podcast with at least one friend today who you think might be struggling too. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any other amazing topics. And please, please do leave me a review. It would mean the world to me. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.